It appears as though Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles should fail in live action. In rubber costumes are 4 7-foot turtles. Genuine alleyways, genuine battles. Close-ups that challenge your perception of their faces. However, the children's movie label is hidden below the dirt and wise jokes. The movie was struggling to establish its own identity. It almost turned into a cheap joke about a comedian's costume before anyone took it seriously. Some missing components never disappeared, and those rubber costumes nearly disclosed the moment when the camera was closest. They've only learned to conceal. Before Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ever faced the foot, the film had to withstand the incorrect time frame. Here are 10 strange facts about the film. First of all, both of the early live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films would have instantly destroyed the franchise. The initial iteration was a joke disguised as a shortcut. The pitch that drew Roger Corman into the discussion didn't even attempt to make the Turtles seem real. It attempted to elude them. With their shells strapped on and their green-painted stand-up comedians cracking through a low-budget journey like a long-form sketch, there were no serious suits or creature illusions. And those names that were circling that notion weren't subtle. Sam Kinison, Gallagher, Bobcat Goldthwait, Billy Crystal, comedians appearing as themselves, actors vanishing into Leonardo or Raphael, and the Turtles becoming a parody before the film was even made. That was only a safer nightmare, though, because the Turtles were turned into a twisted mess of exploitation rather than simply being made less valuable by another early draft. It was driven over the line by one notorious detail: harder shock and gross-out energy. An altercation with part-naked nuns on roller skates. It isn't darker. The writing is attempting to challenge the audience to leave, then labeling it edgy. And for this reason alone, the 1990 picture will be remembered as a film rather than a warning. With neither version, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird made any concessions. They were barred. They kept the door closed until the only option remaining was to treat the Turtles like real characters rather than ridiculous costumes. Because you lose credibility the moment you allow the humorous version to flourish. They simply quote you for the wrong reasons. Second, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did not show much promise by the late 1980s. Already, a takeover had occurred. Children reciting catchphrases like scripture, cartoons on TV, and toys in every aisle. In theory, it appeared to be free money. Because a live-action turtle film was not a typical risk, it appeared to be a trap at studio headquarters. It was a very obvious risk. Demanding that the camera pay attention, for human-sized talking turtles and rubber suits practice martial arts. One poor lighting decision, one silly wide shot, and one awful scene. Additionally, the headline lacks ambition. How did anyone approve this, is the headline, and executives were left with new wounds. Howard the Duck has already demonstrated how a costly, creature-driven idea could become a national joke. The same thing had been done from a different perspective in Masters of the Universe. Big swing, big shame, big brand. Thus, the response to the arrival of Turtles was self-defense rather than curiosity. Major offices were visited by the project, and it immediately left. Columbia, Paramount, Orion, Warner Brothers, and MGM. The next layer of giants followed, but they also avoided contact. Disney, Universal, and 20th Century Fox, different rooms, identical conduct. If it went sideways, no one wanted to be associated with the Turtles wearing rubber suits. The project now faced a different issue. Although they were too strange for the system to claim, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were too noisy to fail silently. The gatekeepers kept backing off as the brand screamed for a movie. The film so began to take on the most unfavorable shape. The rescue had to take place in mid-fall rather than at the start because, despite momentum growing, money already being spent, and parts already in motion, no large studio was willing to stand in front of it and say, "We're releasing this." Third, so it wasn't inheriting a project when New Line took over. It was taking over a situation rather than a clear green light, a train in motion, or a partially completed film that the major studios declined to sign because the risk of humiliation was too great. In 1990, it was uncomfortable to gamble at New Line Cinema. Associated with Freddy Krueger and arthouse swings, it was a rugged business. They had even less space for a public catastrophe because the house Freddy built was the one about which people made jokes. You're not brave if you misfire this loudly. The studio that was laughed out of the room is you. Not when everything was tidy, but still in the middle of production, New Line intervened. Midway through the production process, when the risk is obvious and the money is already burning. One incorrect angle, for enormous turtles in suits, foam, latex, wires, and fight choreography, and the entire scene becomes an expensive comedy that never ends. From that very dread, the majors fled. Regardless, a new line was signed. The gamble then became an event when March 30, 1990, arrived. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles made almost $25 million on its first weekend of release, landing it at the top of the charts. A shove, not a courteous triumph. The joke about the rubber suit was suddenly discussed among the year's top films at the box office. And the label that came next was important. It was regarded as the highest-grossing independent movie at the time, a title it maintained until years later with the Blair Witch Project. It isn't trivial. A door-breaking, that is. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were not only profitable. It increased the scope of what New Line could be. In real time, however, this is what made the rescue so horrifying. It was more than just a brand wager for New Line. Their wager involved a technical illusion that nonetheless needed to function in close-up, under lighting conditions, and under pressure without ever appearing phony. Consequently, marketing was not the next issue. Animatronics, bodies, batteries, and 4 characters have to be created from the ground up. Fourth, the Turtles of 1990 weren't originally costumes. They began as an issue for which there was no known fix. A one close-up of them looking phony would turn the entire film into a farce. Furthermore, the moment the illusion ends, no one in a theater forgets. Thus, they were constructed by Jim Henson's Creature Shop as though they were a new species. Nothing on the shelf could accomplish what this film required, therefore it took more than 126 working days, or about 18 weeks, or 4.5 months, to fabricate. The final bodies were cast in foam rubber latex so the skin could stretch without losing detail after they started with fiberglass forms, then reshaped them in clay to chisel every ridge and wrinkle. It is plausible from inches, not merely from a distance. It became a burden that you could truly feel after that. The entire set of hero outfits weighed about 70 pounds. They move like a bunch of amusing misfits on TV. A performer is attempting to breathe while carrying a heavy system through the heat inside the suit, all the while landing character, comedy, and choreography as if nothing were wrong. Every take turns into endurance. Every battle turns into a struggle for survival. That strain compelled a harsh resolution. Each turtle has 2 systems of suits. Lighter stun outfits that are stripped down to allow the performers to maneuver during wide shots and fights. Heavy hero outfits were reserved for close-ups and speech when the turtles needed to feel alive during calm times. And this is the bit that most people are unaware of. Every turtle was a unique performance. It was a planned attack. An actor inside was carrying the body, and the timing and facial gestures that made the personality land were managed by a different crew off camera. The film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did not feature 4 characters. It constructed 4 unattainable illusions and challenged actual people to vanish within them. The fifth is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which sells you a city that is too familiar to be a fake. The whole scenario feels as though it might be hiding beneath your block because of the sewer damp, rooftop breeze, and that grubby city vibe. The majority of it was constructed elsewhere. Few actual New York locations were used in the filming. Rather, it designed the city in North Carolina, using soundstages that were disguised as streets, alleys, and sewers to film the majority of the film. While they did record outside film in New York to ensure the illusion, significant scenes, such as the well-known rooftop ending, were created here in North Carolina. Skyline Air and Final Showdown Adrenaline are used in the movie cells, although they were unaware that the earth underneath them was a set. In order to recreate such look on the stages, crew personnel entered abandoned subway tunnels in New York merely to take reference pictures. The purpose is credibility, not trivia. The turtles turn into a costume performance if the brick patterns, dirt, and light don't feel right. Quit doubting everything if it feels correct. That accuracy matched the directors. Steve Barron originated in British music videos, where it's necessary to quickly establish and maintain a world. Images like as David bows as the world falls down from Labyrinth, Dire Straits' Money for Nothing, A Haze Take on Me, and Michael Jackson's Billie Jean had already been influenced by him. Icons of rhythm provide the impression that the frame is larger than the budget. Thus, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were unable to locate New York. Using subway images as blueprints, it reconstructed the city on stage until you thought it was genuine enough to conceal 4 turtles. The 6th was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who were constantly in line. Make it seem genuine. The fighting were more intense. Make it seem too real, and all of a sudden, parents are observing a children's brand engage in inappropriate behavior. That is precisely what took place. According to reports, Jim Henson detested the final version of the movie because it was tougher than many people had anticipated. It's hardly a minor grievance. The most peculiar tension in the film's DNA is created by his perception that the violence was excessive and not his style. He even called it meaningless. The movie's most endearing faces are combined with a tone that their own creator did not want to support. After the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles edition made its way out into the world, the cutting process began. The nunchucks by Michelangelo were cut by the United Kingdom. In keeping with the same reasoning that had previously rebranded the franchise There is Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, the term ninja was also softened by Turtle Power, which changed it to hero. Another tactic used by Germany was to overlay fight scenes with cartoon sound effects. As if a comedic mask was necessary for the action to feel legitimate. Thus, the film was not simply edited in a cutting room. The Planet made changes to it. A crude version appears on screen, followed by a more subdued and secure version elsewhere. Characters, plot, and edges are all the same. The 7th character, Judith Hoag, had a single disability that might have destroyed her on the first day of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. She wasn't raised in the world of turtles. No cartoon passion, no comic book shelf, just a part in a film with established conventions and a fan following prepared to punish anything that seemed phony. The only person on her set who truly lived in that realm then gave her an unexpected lifeline. Robin Williams learned that Hoag had been cast as April while she was filming Cadillac Man and began coaching her as if it were important. The comics were his. The tone was clear to him. April wasn't a mascot, he knew. She was an overworked reporter attempting to maintain her composure as the city went crazy. Before a single camera begged the viewers to trust her, he gave her the source and explained to her who April had to be. She was saved by that time since the movie nearly dressed her more like a reminder than a real person. The bright yellow jumpsuit from the cartoon was the original idea. Hoag detested it after trying it on as it didn't read like a professional journalist. It read like a brand screaming from a costume. April's outfit changed from the jumpsuit to something more grounded to fit the filth and peril of the film. The set did not, however, become softer. Hoag and the producers disagreed about the film's violence and the shooting schedule. The 6-day workweek continued to grind. The choice had already been made for her by the time the sequel came out. April was changed when the Ooze's secret was revealed. Eighthly, the turtles from the suits were realistic enough to stand in a dim alley. The voices have to keep you with them since the faces wouldn't be able to save it if the sound wasn't right. Thus, like an independent film piecing together its secret weapon, the film assembled a second ensemble in the background, voice by voice. Leonardo received such constant control from Brian Toshi. Josh Pace performed as Raphael in the suit and spoke him, allowing the rage and the action to come together as one. Michelangelo's looseness, the type of rhythm that makes a line feel thrown off even when it is exactly timed, was provided by Robbie Rist. The name that modifies the temperature then appears. Feldman Corey. Feldman was not a voice actor who was unknown by the late 1980s. From The Goonies, Stand By Me, and The Lost Boys, he was already a familiar face. You would therefore anticipate a contract commensurate with his level of fame when he took over as Donatello. That didn't. Feldman received $1,500 for a few days of voice work in 1989, which is essentially the Screen Actors Guild minimum scale. Additionally, his explanation sharpens the salary cut. He was persuaded to buy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by the makers. A short, unimpressive film. Perhaps it's all right. It might find a home on VHS. It was an easy pitch. We can't afford to buy more. So he accepted it. It was a good concept. He enjoyed it. And he believed that the benefits will materialize later if the film ever became successful. In any case, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles blew up. A blockbuster with a $13.5 million budget that brought in almost $22 million. And Feldman did not receive a bonus because he did not participate in the profits. The whole story was that $1,500. Personal problems prevented him from returning for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Additionally, it was reported that his remuneration remained essentially unchanged when he returned for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 in 1993. Rubber was given personality by 4 voices. One of the most well-known personalities behind it was compensated as if the film was still hoping for recognition. The faces of the turtles were not rubber smiles. Number 9. Because the film required them to speak like genuine characters rather than as open and close props, every close-up was risky because they were machines. Jim Henson's Creature Shop used a nearly careless technique to overcome the problem. In 1990, a puppeteer performed the lines using their own mouth and jaw while wearing a head-mounted rig. Instead of mimicking a rigid mechanical hinge, the lips replicated a human rhythm after that movement was transmitted live into the turtle's skull. The remaining operators were then layered in. Expressions, eyes, and brows are all controlled via radio controls. A single on-screen persona meant numerous persons off-screen, controlling a face in real time and hoping it remains submissive. Because you construct something that can betray you once you build something that is advanced. They were animatronics. A face would occasionally freeze in the middle of a scenario, unable to break out of a persistent smile. Sometimes, as if the suit had a mind of its own, it would quiver and spasm due to interference, with lips going crazy and eyebrows jumping. Imagine attempting to make a joke as the person above you begins to execute a different act, and you are unable to correct it from within. You just don't stop talking. You don't move. You bide your time until someone cleans your face. Wilmington then made it look much worse. These heads were being driven by radio signals, and the majority of the shoot took place close to a busy military airfield. Stray signals could collide with the turtles' electronics when aircraft flew overhead or the control tower broadcast. In mid-take, a face may glitch or seize after catching the incorrect message out of the sky. When planes were landing, the crew learned to pause, but invisible noise cannot be scheduled. And one glitch became more than just a technical issue, it became blood. When Raphael was thrown into a garbage can by Casey Jones during the park brawl, his mechanical skull collapsed inward. Josh Pius's nose was broken as the metal and hard plastic inside crashed onto his face. Later, Pace verified it. The fact that the film retained the take is another aspect that stings. It's not character-related when Raphael grabs his face after climbing out of the dumpster. That's a person inside a machine recognizing that it just struck back. Remember what you are actually witnessing when you see those turtles blinking and grinning up close. In a signal-filled sky, a radio-driven face is being puppeteered live. It glitched occasionally, froze occasionally, and once broke the person wearing it. 10th. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has the kind of proof that 2 trading cards shouldn't be able to alter your recollection of a film. There are cards that depict Donatello wearing a hat while the turtles at the farmhouse engage in additional training in an open field. You can't blink and miss the background moment. A captured, posed beat from a scene that is absent from the final product. The evidence ladder in a single shot is that the scene was real. It was captured on film. It is significant because it reframes the farmhouse sequence as more than just a respite, and it was advanced enough to be marketed. In the Lost Edition, the hideout served as a training field, a reset, and a momentum-driven regrouping until the tone abruptly changed. In a different cutscene, the Foot Kids who failed the April early attack are taken to jail and, after being released on bail, are carried back to Shredder's lair. Instead of lecturing them in that version, Shredder punishes them. He turns failure into a physical reminder that they must wear by cutting and marking them with the blades on his armor. It's that contrast that matters. The absence of one cluster makes the film cozier and more team-oriented. The other makes it more merciless and frigid. 2 distinct Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films coexisted in a single production, and it was evident from the final cut which could endure. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles lost more than just scenes, it lost a version of itself, and the glossy cardboard serves as evidence. Turtle wearing a farmer's hat. Additionally, a shredder-shaped scar was never permitted to appear on screen. As an added bonus, the faces that caused the turtles to move are rarely seen. In the film, they are concealed by radio-driven heads, foam, and heat. Thus, Steve Barron took a tiny but significant action. He made brief human cameos with the suit actors, as if the camera could finally show his gratitude in silence. The man inside Raphael, Josh Pace, appears as a taxi passenger as Raph jumps over a cab while wearing a trench coat. Pace, who clocks in at the back seat, blurts out, "What the heck was that?" It sounds like a big title. The same individual who just performed the trick is the source of the voice of disbelief. In the subway, Leif Tilden, who played Donatello in the suit, shows up as a Foot Clan messenger. He approaches April and says, "I deliver a message." Just before things get ugly, David Foreman, the actor inside Leonardo, shows up as a street gang member during Casey Jones's altercation with Tatsu in the Foot Hideout, giving him a brief moment of genuine human impact. They are engrossed in the deception for the entire film. They then get a single blink captured on camera to demonstrate their constant presence. That is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' silent miracle. Being safe didn't help it win. By not being a joke, it prevailed. In bulky suits, a bold concept appeared as though it had something to prove to the public. Click like and subscribe if you like these strange facts. Additionally, you can purchase it using the link below if you wish to keep it on your shelf. For certain films become ingrained in you rather than simply fading with time. Like a sewage lid closing somewhere close, or the sound of rain in an alley.